Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Afternoon FM. I'm Matthew Zeitoun here at Phenotype Stages, and today I'm joined by my guest, roommate, and friend Jon Cohen.
What's up, Matt?
We're going to be learning a little bit about his life, a little bit about his career, some of his opinions in tech. This man is, how would you describe your career in tech?
How would I describe my career in tech? Reluctant tech. No, my career in tech has very much been like, yeah. I mean, we're gonna jump right into it, or is that?
No, we're going.
Yeah.
First, we gotta get to know the man behind the projects.
The man behind the man.
Man behind the man.
Yeah.
That's actually another Bob Dylan song. A little bit before we got into this.
XLR up my butt.
There was an XLR up John's butt, and we were ranting about Bob Dylan. And I wonder what Bob Dylan has a whiskey now.
Yeah, we saw it. We saw his billboard on the road.
Coming back from Rashad's show, shout out to the Romeo's Whiskey. Play over the past weekend. Very, very beautiful, beautiful art by a very, very talented artist. We were coming back, and Bob Dylan has a whiskey. So I don't know, man. I feel like you think that's like a little hypocritical of Bob?
I think so. I think of all the things he could be selling, at least whiskey is like, it's
on brand.
It's kind of an anarchist libertarian's drink, like made in the hills, like in Tennessee.
But Heaven's Door, come on now.
I mean, Heaven's Door I don't know about, but I'm just like, whiskey.
He's like, come on, man.
I'm trying to give him benefit of the doubt, all right? It's Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
No, it's a little bit hypocritical, I mean, he's always been that like anti-capitalist kind of message, but.
Anti-capitalist songs only pay the bill for roughly 40 years, so he might become a statistic at this point.
And then the capitalists get you.
Then
you spend all your money from your career or something. I'm surprised he needs to make that billboard.
Yeah. What? Do you think if Bob Dylan dropped a whiskey, everybody would flock to it? I don't think so.
No, I mean,
it's not Casamigos. Casamigos is like Casamigos is George Clooney's tequila.
Yeah.
And he's a billionaire now off of that shit. That's what got him into the thing. It's not really the acting. It's just like all the other shit.
All the other extras that go with it. Sure, it's just like how fucking what's her face Hermione and her fashion brands and shit.
Hermione has a fashion brand.
Yo, what's the name of that actress who played her?
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. Yeah, she's like a billionaire off of fashion.
No way.
She's like a fashion mogul. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
She did like modeling and fashion and all that stuff.
Did not know Emma Watson.
Oh yeah, she like cashed in.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it called? Like Granger's?
No, it has
Granger's
nothing
Grunge?
to do with Hermione at all.
No?
I don't know what it's called. I don't follow fashion, but I know that she's made killing off of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, good for Hermione.
Yeah.
It's weird how people are like parlaying shit into like different things. Like Diddy's got Ciroc. Kanye's lost his goddamn mind.
Yeah. I like to parlay my music career into losing my shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's weird. But we're going to go back. We're going to cycle back to Mr. Cohen. We're going to get to know the man behind the man. Bob Dylan's new album in stores, Man Behind the Man.
Brought to you by Heaven's Door Whiskey.
Yeah, brought to you by Heaven's Door Whiskey. Okay. So, you're a Pennsylvania boy?
I am. Well, I'm mostly Pennsylvania. I was born in Maryland. All my family's in Maryland, but my dad actually delivered me. My dad's an OBGYN.
Your dad delivered you?
Yeah, my dad's an OBGYN. He delivered me and my sister.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And we moved to Pennsylvania when I was little because he like got a partner position in a like relatively new practice, and then he worked at that practice for his whole career, and like they're really big now. They're like the only practice in the area that hasn't been bought up by University of Pittsburgh.
Really? So it's an indie hospital.
It's not an indie hospital. They work in a hospital, but an indie practice. All the other practices have become like UPMC, blah 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 blah.
Oh, so it's the hospital's practices are like KPMG, like those type of corporate fucking like
Yeah,
like
so
the practice of medicine is corporatized.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he works in a hospital. Well, he doesn't work anymore. He retired this year, but the hospital isn't UPMC yet, but just like a lot of private practices have been bought and turned into UPMC, whatever. And yeah, they corporatize it. They make it so he can't make his own decisions as doctors, and you could have him on and he could tell you more about it.
Really, I'd love it.
He's got some great perspectives. He got sued by this grandmother of this kid because the kid's mom was like doing heroin the whole time she was pregnant and didn't get any care, and the kid, poor kid, had a seizure. The first hour of his life was a seizure.
Jesus
and
Christ.
had permanent, learning disabilities and all that shit. And the kid's grandma sued him, and it went on for 7 years. They appealed it all the way up to the state Supreme Court. It was fucked.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
bro. The stress of that's gotta be nuts. It's really. I don't know.
It's interesting. It's definitely affected him. He was already kind of a defensive person, and he got more into you gotta be worried out in the world. People are out to get you. That's kind of his attitude.
My father's kind of like that too, but my father he got kind of fucked over on land deals, but he's was a legal guy.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's why I was in Pennsylvania, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in the suburbs.
What was it like growing up?
It was it was like a suburban neighborhood like you would see on a fucking sitcom. It was pretty generic like you'd see anywhere else in the country that's in the suburbs. What was interesting about it is that it was right on the border. So if you went one direction, you were headed into Harrisburg, and which is a medium-sized city. It's probably similar size to Patterson, maybe a little bigger.
Yeah.
I like those the capital.
I like those little really Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, it's the capital, the state capital.
No, Allentown and Du Bois pretty well.
Yeah,
and I don't know Du Bois very well. I visited.
I've been to Allentown. Allentown's a little.
Allentown's it's just fucking Dorney Park, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a couple hours. It's a couple hours from where I grew up. I grew up an hour north of Baltimore, basically.
Oh, word.
And
was that the city that
That was the city. Harrisburg was the city.
Harrisburg is the city, not Baltimore.
Not Baltimore. Harrisburg was the city. Because Harrisburg was right there. It was 5 minutes away. And it's big enough. It's a city. It's not a big city, but it's a city.
Yeah. Baltimore was like New York City, kind of.
I mean, Baltimore and Philly and New York and Pittsburgh were all, even though they were different lengths, they're all the same. They're the next city in a different direction. Harrisburg's in between all of the eastern seaboard cities. So
that's cool, man. That's kind of like what Reading was in Northern California. Reading was wherever you go 3 hours, you're hitting something that was cool. 3 hours to Tahoe, 3 hours to Reno, 3 hours to San Francisco, 3 hours to Napa, 3 hours to Southern Oregon or Oregon. It was 12 hours to Portland.
Yeah.
But yeah. I kind of like them. It's just weird because I always feel weird being in commuter cities, except for Patterson, honestly. Patterson's always been
yeah.
It's enough for me to not really
it's home.
Yeah, it's home. It's home for me too.
I don't feel home in Harrisburg the same way, because I was in the suburbs anyways. I wasn't in Harrisburg, but also it's just I just didn't like it, and I always felt like an outsider there, So I wanted to just get out. But yeah, because it was suburbs, but one direction was Harrisburg, but then there was a cow farm at the end of the development, so I was right on the boundary between the boonies and the suburbs. So
a little bit of both.
One of the few areas in Pennsylvania that isn't Philly or Pittsburgh that wasn't completely Republican northern redneck bullshit.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mix, and I felt that growing up. In terms of my own viewpoint and growing away from my dad, who's a very libertarian and all that, and my own views on things, and that was nice that I grew up not in a bubble, I have friends who grew up in New York City,
echo chamber.
Yeah, who are they've never seen a Republican in the wild as a kid. Or something,
Yeah, I started to really understand a little bit. Like I'm not like agreeing with the shit, but I'm like I like understand where they're like coming from in some of the stances. It's like living in the woods.
I understand why people. I mean, it's I never blame people for their political stances. I blame the people who made a lot of money in order to make someone believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're animals. We adapt to our environment, and that makes us like able to be manipulated by the environment.
Yeah.
But it's like actually, it's kind of like don't you think it's kind of like it's like taking advantage of a survival tactic?
Well, I think like a lot of and we could probably go into that one like later when we go like deeper into the tech. It's like how we're being all manipulated like psychologically through like either like apps, and there's like a very very like specific like psychological like like tool that it's like activated, like the dopamine you feel and fucking
I mean I can talk about that for sure.
But let's build up to it.
Let's
hear it because there's a lot of things you do, bro.
We need some foreplay first.
Great. Little XLR before you got to tickle the butthole before you fucking
before you shove the XLR up in there. No one listening to this is going to know how we started this joke. It's just going to be going.
They'll have to subscribe to the OnlyFans and the Patreon.
Exclusive content.
Exclusive content.com.
I wouldn't even be surprised if you owned exclusivecontent.com.
You wouldn't be surprised?
I would not be surprised if you owned exclusivecontent.com.
Or done buy the .nft today.
Exclusivecontent.nft. Yeah,
I would love to. What my dream is to be like. What was it? Peppermints.com. Whoever got that. First of all, that's a mystery box. There was no name on it.
Yeah.
Peppermints.com just decided to show up with a box of peppermints, which is a nice tactic. I enjoy it, but my dream is to owning Peppermints.com, and there's just this crazed peppermint like craft person who was left a lot of money because their great-great-grandpappy invested in the original Bitcoin, or had 3 shares of the fucking East fucking Tea Company or whatever the fuck it's called.
Had some shares of the East India Trading Company.
Yeah, the East India Trading Company, and then they're like, yo, I'm really into peppermints, and then I have peppermints.com, and I sell it for $1 million, and I would just kind of do what Tom did.
It's generational wealth, man. Between generational wealth and generational
I do exactly what the guy from MySpace did. I would just travel the world, take some beautiful pictures, and do this
and be done. Yeah, Tom from MySpace doesn't need to do anything else.
Yeah. It's fucking all right. So we're going in now. Growing up in Harrisburg, father's an OBGYN. You're in high school now. What are your interests and
in high school? Man, I was awkward as fuck. I was like the nerdy kid. I was like even among the nerdy kids.
You were the nerd amongst nerds.
I was just like didn't have social skills. Like it's a disagreement in my family whether or not I'm on the autism spectrum or not.
I've already put myself on it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't care. care.
Neither do I.
Yeah, whatever. But I definitely had a lot of problems with making friends. I had like a really small group of friends. There were like 5 of us or so, and we all still hang out and like keep in touch and play poker online. I
like how poker is the.
It started during the pandemic. That was how we started doing poker on Zoom like every week just to pandemic socializing, and we kept it going after people started going outside again.
Nice.
So we played. We were all in the marching band. I was in the drum line, and we all played like tabletop games. So we would play this game called Warhammer.
I know Warhammer.
You know Warhammer, yeah. So we played Warhammer 40K, which is like the sci-fi version, and then Warhammer was the one we really liked, which was like the fantasy version. And there are some other games we played that were in that. There's one called Blood Bowl that was like rugby/football in the Warhammer universe. That was fun. You could like bribe the refs and put a steamroller on the field, and just nobody would notice for a little while. It was fun. So we did a lot of that sort of stuff. And then I was kind of not invited to things people would have parties or whatever. I was never invited. Even my friends would go out and do shit without me.
Yeah.
So I had this kind of very lonely time in high school, and then I spent a lot of time at home, basically, with my mom, who was in and out of the psych ward. So, like, as this very, like, very internal, very, like, introverted high school and, like, growing up experience in general. Like, you know, I spent most of my time, like, reading books. And, like, but then my social stuff was, like, music, was, like, playing the jazz band, playing the marching band. That sort of stuff. I had one or two bands, but none of them really went anywhere. I kind of, like, was really listening to jazz music already at that point in time, and, like, nobody really wanted to play jazz music with me. I had a couple friends we'd play every now and again together. We'd play, like, at this hotel or whatever around town.
Do you remember your first gig?
My first gig?
Yeah.
I think our first gig was we did something at the... in Hershey, so I grew up near Hershey, Pennsylvania, like with like the chocolate bar. Yeah. And Hershey, there's this like hotel resort thing.
Hershey Park.
Hershey Lodge, the Hershey Lodge. It's near Hershey Park.
Okay.
But it's just different. It's the Hershey Lodge, and there was some. Maybe it was like the state high school teachers conference or something, whatever, but we were playing for them. Like our band director got us a gig there, and we were playing. Yeah. But I mean, I played a lot of gigs like with the marching band and the jazz band I had. Like we competed, like we did like a competitive circuit. So even though those weren't like gigs, like I was playing out a lot, like outside of just like school concerts and shit.
Yeah.
But high pressure though, not like necessarily like fun, but rewarding, but not fun, you know. You know, yeah, and that became a lot of my identity. But then I was also like, you know, like music and math go together, so I was also the guy who was like really into math and really into science and just like all of that stuff. That was really what I was into.
How did that begin to go? So like after high school, what did we do?
Well, I had there was a girl on the drum line who I really looked up to, named Maddie DeBroy. Ooh. And her family's very religious, and she went to the school called Duquesne in Pittsburgh, which is a really good music school, but it's also a Catholic school. Yeah. And I basically just followed her there. I wanted to go to music school. You would like
drop into classes?
No, I mean like I went to Duquesne.
Okay.
And my parents hated it. I was like getting mail from like Harvard and shit, you know, go be an engineer here or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, no, I want to go to this second-tier music school. Thanks.
All right, word. All right, so you're turning down a lot of like engineering work.
Yeah, which even though I ended up doing engineering work anyways.
No, but still, like, you know what I mean? It's taking the time to follow interest, man. It's like fucking, you know,
yeah.
It's the same shit as the reason why I'm doing drawing classes. I'm not necessarily even trying to like, but it's just I'm starting to be in like a good point where I'm like not in that moment of like there's that uncertainty and like, you know, 18, like 20, like where it's like, well, what do I do? What's gonna be like the whole thing? Like I was in business school for a fucking year, and like, you know, it was good, but it didn't really teach me anything. It wasn't like. And then I did culinary, but that was a whole like life. But it was like I was making more money as a bartender. It was like those like little choices and shit. But you chose to do the creative route.
Yeah, I chose that. You know, and like, you know, I'm a good drummer. I am a good drummer, but I'm definitely like, overall, I am like better at sciencey things than I am at creative things. That's just like how my brain works. But it also like. Not as fun. It's not as fun.
One's more logical and one's like more loose.
Yeah, well, it just, and you know, one. It's
very structured.
One is very social, and the other is not. You know, I like a lot of math and science for me was like. I really do think that beyond just having like a natural, I get it. Having a home situation where like, you know, like. I was at home with a parent who would like blow up for no apparent reason. Like she just has that like borderline and whatever sort of stuff going on.
Did you find the drums to be more of a release?
Well, I found the drums were just I did it without thinking about it. I mean, I was drumming since before I had memories. Like I was running around the walls as a toddler, like playing drums on the walls.
That's awesome.
It's in me. Like, it's in me.
Yeah.
Math was the safe zone because it's logical, it's predictable, it's not chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not like word.
Yeah.
That's fucking dope. How do you go about, like, in terms of, like, we're gonna stay on drums, but how do you go about, like, creating a beat, like, in terms of
creating a beat?
Yeah, like, how are you like
I'm behind.
Yeah, you're about to do it, and this is a native thing that's, like, within you, like, making.
Yeah, it depends. A lot of it is just by feel. A lot of drumming is because you're, like, in the driver's seat a little bit as a drummer, especially in a small group. So, the parts of, I think, that are unique to a drummer is, like, being really attuned to, like, what's the energy in the room, what's the atmosphere, what does the atmosphere need, and then providing that, you know, because you can give the band a push, or you can, or you like, if you listen to me playing, like, you know, at Mav, or, like, if you were listening to me on Saturday, like,
got that in, like, 2 hours, man. I can't fucking wait.
You can as a drummer, you can cue the other musicians on stage, because you're the kind of the biggest thing in the room. So if you get really quiet, everyone's going to quiet down.
Yeah.
And if you push the tempo, it's going to get a little bit faster. Or if you change the style, you know, in a way that people can follow, it's going to change. So you can play that game. So a lot of it is, like, feel, like, just what do I think? What do I feel like should be played right now?
That's cool, bro. It's like you're really, like, the DJ and, like, leading a lot.
Very much so. But this is also why a lot of bad drummers were, like, play like cavemen, you know, and, like.
Oh yeah.
Because you can do that. You can completely take over.
Yeah.
You know, and not lead. So you need to be leading, but it's circular, because you need to be listening to the feedback that you're getting from everyone else on stage. You can't force the situation.
It's such a fucking, like, a dynamic instrument, man. I've been trying to, like, learn it for, like, I know how to do, like, I can get the structure of the beat, but the actual physicality of playing the drums is, like, in the it's like, if I'm doing a thing, I'm very shitty at singing. You know what I mean? It's like, if I'm doing, like, if I'm playing a lead, or I'm doing my loop on a guitar, I can't really sing. With drumming, it's you know, being able to position your body, and the creative choices of, like, how you play the instrument is, like, it's just so vast. While I was, like, I grew up on piano, and fucking the structuredness of it, like, and I end up finding myself doing muscle memory and playing kind of the same chords, because I feel safety in that, kind of like how, like,
that's what you know.
Yeah,
sure.
It's like it's like math, like the math, the thing, like, you know, it's like kind of falling back into that fucking that thing that feels safe. But,
exactly. Yeah, it is like that, and I mean, that's in drums too. You know, like, you can, you know, but I definitely feel that, like, on piano, there's only a couple chord shapes that I can really go to.
But it's always, but it's crazy, because there's always, like, that room to improvise and bring anything out. But I mean, let's ping pong it back to math. So during this time, like, how did you, like, cycle back into engineering and, like, coding?
Yeah, so I was in music school. My first year I was doing, like, jazz and classical composition, and I left that path because I hated the faculty there, basically.
Really?
Which was kind of stupid, because I was really good at it. I have, like, this really big regret around it, where, like, Sean Jones, who used to be the lead trumpeter at Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and now he teaches at Berkeley, and I was in an ensemble. I was studying under him, and he, like, took me aside and gave me, like, a 30-minute speech about how I shouldn't stop composing, because I was writing music for the ensemble, and it was good. But I left because I was stubborn and wasn't really a person who listened to anybody at the time. So I was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
But I was a quiet dick. I wouldn't, like. It was, if you were paying attention, I think it was probably obvious that I was judging everyone, but I didn't do it outwardly, because I was just quiet, you know? But I had this huge ego problem at the time.
How have you worked on that?
Slowly. With a lot of, slowly and with a lot of embarrassment. You know, I think just as you go out into the world, if you pay any attention at all, like if you aren't just completely having the blinders on, I think it's impossible to really hold on to an ego.
Yeah.
Unless you're in a weird situation like a Jeff Bezos where you're really surrounded by people who are saying yes to you all the time because you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
But for most of us, I think if you're paying attention at all, then you'll notice how many people around are really good at lots of different things that you're not good at.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe they're good at things, they're better at the thing that you're really good at than you are, you know?
Yeah.
And you can take that, defensively, but at a certain point, I think it became really obvious to me that, I'm just holding myself back by, by envying and finding reasons to not like people because they're better than me at something.
Yeah.
You know, it's just...
you have a competitive, drive in you.
I do. I have a competitive drive, but I'm, a strategic idiot.
Oh, shit.
I have, no strategy and tactics in me. I want to be the best, but I want to be the best in, I'm just gonna do it. You know, there's no, thinking, all right, I'm gonna compete with this person.
You're not an ABC, D, E, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You're not going by points. Where it's are you a mapper? Or of what you want to do?
I mean, historically, really, I think it's not even that. It was literally just I would find reasons to discount people who were better than me and stuff. I would just think they were assholes or something.
Okay.
You know, it was really not even that. Yeah. So it was really just a stupid ego thing, and I had a lot of that through music school, and I didn't really make too many friends. I was playing in a band that was it was fine. It kept me liking music because it was mindless music. It was a pop punk band, and I was the only really serious musician in the group.
Yeah.
You know.
So everybody just wants to fuck around.
Yeah, and it was fine. You know, it was. I needed it because I was feeling overwhelmed with the music thing because I kept trying to fight off everyone who was better than me at shit, as opposed to learning in that environment. You know. Huh. Or I wasn't making friends and learning from people.
What were you trying to do? Try to juggle different.
Yeah, so I started juggling after a couple of years. I started so I had switched to music to production and recording and all of that stuff, and I started getting into why is it when I turn the EQ knob that the sound changes? How does that work?
Oh yeah. I had a moment like that where I used to be a producer.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying with drumming, I do it off of just Logic. I was a big huge fan of Logic, man, and I used to make beats with it. My actual native instrument. Bleh. Shout out to Machine. I want money, motherfuckers. What's it called? Shout out to Native Instruments. My native instrument was actually an Akai MPD 32.
Fuck Machine.
I actually left the 32 for a Machine. So shout out to Native Instrument. But I was the MK1, so they can kind of give you a timestamp of where the fuck I was actually making beats and shit with.
Yeah.
But I just remember, because initially when I moved to Los Angeles, bro, I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to work for Rick Rubin, and I wanted to learn how to reduce. I wanted to make things very minimal and to be able to to be kind of DAW-less. Honestly, there was because I didn't know how to play instruments. I just knew how to play piano and shit. Mm-hmm. So what's it called? Just learning those things like ASMR and how to sequence MIDI and audio, just record, not necessarily even engineering, just just recording was a whole process. But back to you, my bad.
No, it's all good.
Brought me back to
it's all good. Yeah. All good, man. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
You're interesting too, motherfucker.
Thank you. It's been a
but
story.
I was doing that, and I started studying math again because there was no engineering department at my school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well maybe I can like study this shit and then like go to grad school and learn how to make instruments, like do like electrical engineering in grad school and like make musical instruments. You know, That was like my idea. And I was denied by every single grad school I applied to. All of them, like all 7 of them, did not accept the application from a music school student. They didn't like that.
They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I kind of panicked, and I ended up finishing my math degree also, because I knew there was a professor who had an opening doing research. So I was like, okay, I can do research with Dr. Levine, and and see where I go from there. And because I kind of panicked out of the whole music thing, I was just like, looking back at my career in music school, I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this professionally. I need to do something else. So I did that, and that was how I got into Google, was through Dr. Levine.
Yeah. She said she started you off with, you gave me a little bit of backstory on how you got into coding.
I did it. Well, she made me. So she was doing research for like image processing algorithms. So like she was working on like 2 different problems. One was like how to taking like noise out of a noisy picture, and the other one is like working on HDR. Like I have a bunch of pictures. How do I line them up properly so that we can do HDR on it and not get blurring? So she was doing that sort of research.
And that's like but the research of like taking noise out of it. So like.
Yeah, the math behind it, doing like developing algorithms, developing the math and the engineering around it.
So the algorithm, so it's like what is it like? It's like a preset that would be able to like fucking.
You could turn it into a preset, but this was like way before productization or anything like that. This was like coming up with ideas, and then the best of those ideas would get. What we were working on wasn't good enough to turn into a product, but you could, and like stuff like this is also done in like. Probably your phone camera does a lot of software denoising, and like any industrial imaging, is doing that.
And then you just like license the technology to these like different brands. And
sure,
stuff.
But it wasn't at a business level.
It was just research.
It was for the math, for the like, this is a thing that we could do better. I'm going to try and do it better. There was no
word.
There was no. I mean, it was not like a big, CMU right down the road does that a lot. They have tons of spin-offs.
Yeah.
Duquesne is not that level of school.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really on anyone's mind.
Yeah.
And I was just in it because I liked math. I don't have a business mind. I don't think like you do. Like, I have to force myself to think about making money and profit. Like, my brain really doesn't want to go there.
Yeah, no, you actually like you just solve problems, man. You're like I don't know, like what you were discussing, like like different like free speech platforms. Like it's more like an ethical. It's like strange. This is maybe one of the best reasons why like I'd love to hear it is like you have like it's like purposeful technology that's like. Actually, like it's like human like technology, like actually
human focused, or just generally like technology is a tool. Like it's so profitable that it turns into people are doing technology as a means to profit. But like if you think about the foundational technologies of humanity is like fire and the wheel. And like hammers and nails and screws and like, or social technologies, democracy, where like it's actually serving a role beyond like, beyond like, this is just going to be the next step in the money making, like not that things don't serve a role, like, TikTok serves a role, it's creating culture, but it's also like ultimately an advertising and money making platform.
It's a couple salamanders are just like in Silicon Valley are just controlling the entire
in China,
media industry.
For TikTok,
We also find us on TikTok or YouTube, guys. Afternoon out. What is that?
Sorry.
I mean, it's I find it to always be like it's like the sword of Damocles, bro, or some shit. I know the sword of Damocles is always double edged. Yeah. Everything is kind of double edged.
Yeah, no, everything is, and I tend to go on the cynical side of technology. Like I was at Google when like Google Home and Alexa fight was first starting, and I saw how many people and how many resources were getting put into like developing Google Home, and I thought it was the stupidest fucking thing. Like it's like a minor convenience, to have a Google Home.
Yeah.
And, they don't really add anything except like buggy voice interfaces. Like it's a convenience thing,
Yeah.
But hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of really smart people's time was being put into it.
What do you feel about the Google Glass? Google Glasses, I felt were like fucking. What time were you getting into Google around Google Home?
They were kind of dying by the time I got into Google.
They always looked like it was gonna be the most revolutionary shit.
It's too early.
Yeah.
It's too early. It's coming back now.
Yeah, with the smartware.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the next couple of years, don't you think we're gonna have some kind of Google Glass type of thing?
Would you get the chip? The Neuralink chip?
The Neuralink chip?
Yeah. As a wearable, the fucking...
I don't know, man. I don't trust... I would need to have a lot of trust to put a company's thing in my brain, that they aren't going to fuck with me, because at that point I might not even be able to control it, because now it's in my brain. Like, they might... What if they can turn off the part of my brain that's able to fight back?
Yeah.
So, like, the hard rule, for sure, is that I will never connect my brain to the internet.
All right.
Never.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a dissenter. No. There's like 3 fucking people in tuxedos that come out of like random parts of the place and just drag you off. You just hear a gunshot at the end of it.
Yeah, what's the at the end of 1984 and he's taken to some department to like re-educate him? What's the Ministry of Love?
Is it the
Ministry of Love?
No, what is Karma Police? Karma Police is from where? Somebody brought this up the other day.
I don't know where that's from. I thought it was just Radiohead.
No, I thought so too, but there's definitely some shit called the Karma Police. Somebody was like, yo, this is from... It's gotta be from
That's not 1984, though.
Fahrenheit? Is it Fahrenheit 9/11? No. Manchurian Candidate.
Maybe a Manchurian Candidate. I don't think it's in Fahrenheit 9/11.
I think it might be Manchurian.
Fahrenheit 251, not 9/11. Fahrenheit
9/11, yeah.
Fahrenheit 251. Yeah. No, he like goes to the Ministry of Love is like the re-education place for Big Brother in 1984, and they like take you there and they torture you until you agree to their version of reality. Yeah. That's where I just got taken.
So you're at Google.
So I'm Google. Yeah. So I was really lucky. So at the time I graduated school and I was Twitch streaming a lot and really not doing a lot of like applying to jobs or anything that I was supposed to be doing. Quote. And so I started doing a lot of Twitch streaming for this like really small niche game called Tag Pro that had kind of blown up. We had done some social engineering on Reddit to gather a user base for this game. It was cool. We grew from like 400 people to like a couple tens of thousands of people, and with like leagues on like in Australia and Europe and North America and South America.
So that's how a games community kind of blows
up. We made a games community. I was interviewed for a documentary about it by a guy who was there for his film school. I don't know if he ever actually made it though. Because I like made the streaming scene for it. Like I was the first streamer to actually care, to like be like, I'm gonna make this quality. I'm not gonna have this be 2 pixels. There's gonna be nice visuals, and I'm gonna be doing play-by-play, and you're gonna see what's going on in the game, and just like so there was a streaming scene that coalesced around what I was doing, but I was like kind of constantly pushing the envelope, and I ran like off of a laptop. I ran like streams with like multiple commentary desks and like different like like community generated content and like fake advertisements that were like in jokes for the whole community, and it was great. Cool. And I was thinking about making a career out of that, and I tried all of the popular games, and I didn't like any of them. And I was like, I don't like League of Legends, and I don't like Dota 2, and I don't like CSGO, and like I suck too much at StarCraft to be involved in it at all. As it's a really fucking elitist fan group.
It's also
and so I was like, I tried to do the indie game streamer thing for a while. It never really caught on.
Yeah.
And I was like, still living in Pittsburgh, and I like went in just to see my old research advisor and see a talk that was being given by one of her old students, who was like a grad student at Duke at the time, and this girl's boyfriend worked at Google Pittsburgh, and I was like, I have a referral. I guess I should go for this.
Mm.
I am not applying. I had like applied to like one or two other jobs that didn't work out, but like it was not. I really wasn't working on it at all. But I was like, well, Google's supposed to be a great company and they pay really well, and maybe I did have some sense of like, I know that Google is a place that I can probably do some good at if I'm willing to like work within the system.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
like making films for a big studio.
It's like you're
able to make your shit, but you can like, it's you kind of gotta play the game.
You gotta play the game.
Yeah.
You gotta play the game. But Google is nice that they do so much, and they're so big,
Open.
and they just like are constantly like just printing money.
Yeah.
Making like
Creative.
hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like crazy amounts of money, and so there's a lot of leeway for you to like self-direct. So a lot of people are like, I want to be where the money's being made. That's where the career advancements go. I'm going to work at Google Ads because that's what drives Google.
Okay.
Right, is their ads. That wasn't me. So I came in through like a residency program. I did the whole interview process, which is a lot. Like for people who don't know about like software industry, Google's hiring process is pretty typical. They give you like a screen to make sure you're not just lying on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give you like kind of a basic screener interview where they give you some quiz kind of coding quiz question. It's like simple if you know what you're doing, but is like a smoke screen for a lot of people. And then they flew me out to San Francisco and did a whole like 4 interviews in one day, like very like high pressure, like you get an hour, solve this, you get another hour, solve this, and they're just like, it's tiring as fuck.
Yeah,
it's a lot. And after all of that, I didn't get in, but they were like, you were close, we have this residency program, we want you to interview for this. And I was like, okay, sure. And I did that and got in, so I had like this ability to self-direct way more than a person who gets in the normal way, because like teams were like, there were a lot of people who were interested in having residents come on and work with them on like this little thing that they just don't have enough people to do but really needs to get done, sort of thing. And so I was able to just like direct, and I did a couple moves. I don't know how interesting they are, but I ended up working with a guy who was a mentor for me named Titus Winters, and we would like go climbing together. And we both like jazz music, and we go see jazz music together, and he's like this very influential software engineer out in the world. He's involved very intimately with creating the C++ programming language.
Really?
And that's what I was writing with him.
He
didn't create C++, but he was part of
the team,
the core group of people who were in charge of. So it's a committee. It's like an international standards board. But there are like kind of 4 like main subcommittees that are like in charge of. It's an ISO. It's an ISO standard. So there's like 4 groups that are like divide up the tasks of like maintaining and growing the language, and he was in charge of one of those. At the time, he's not anymore, which is good for him. It's a really good thing for him. C++ is a fucking toxic community. It's bad.
How do what's your favorite coding language?
Right now it's TypeScript.
TypeScript. Never even heard of that one.
You've heard of JavaScript.
I've heard of JavaScript. JavaScript was my fall off. I learned. I was like I said, back when I was in business school, when I was a youth. I studied coding. I was a Code Academy guy, and I was gonna be like, oh yeah, guys, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna make the next app. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be the next fucking And I did HTML and CSS, and then JavaScript was like semi-cool, and I was okay. I could like understand it, but I'm like, I don't know. I did them, and I was like, do I really want to do this? I feel like just strange doing. Not a strange.
I honestly kind of wish I listened to that. I remember learning how to code and feeling stressed and strained and feeling like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this, but I was good at it, so I just kept doing it.
I was I liked it. I really loved it. It's an art form. It's a like a logical art form.
Sure.
And like I would have loved to do it, man. I liked all the things around coding. I liked the product design and like doing graphics and making mock-ups and what was the fucking thing called? But I wanted to learn the languages because of the thing, and I think Python is kind of like the fucking the shit now or some shit, right?
Well, I mean, you can't say one language is the shit because it depends what you're talking about. Like. Yeah. Different language, they're like tools. They,
they all speak.
You wouldn't say like hammers are the shit right now. Everyone's using hammers. It's like, well, maybe when they need to hammer a nail, they're using hammers, but when they need to cut a piece of wood, they're using a saw, and that's nothing like a hammer at all.
Word. All right.
So Python's really good for some things. Python is hot right now because it's really good for writing like machine learning stuff.
Okay.
That's why Python's real hot right now. But it can do everything. You can do other stuff. You can do web stuff with Python too, and it's a really nice like beginner language because it's a little bit like English, and it's a little bit more forgiving than some other languages.
Yeah.
It's got some trade-offs.
Huh.
I like Python. I've written plenty of Python in my life. Yeah, it's nice.
Word.
Yeah.
Huh.
But TypeScript's like JavaScript, but they added some like. So a cool thing about code that I see as code is it's like code is a very precise way of like stating knowledge about the world or knowledge about a process. So like within code, like there's like types, and types are like what kind of thing am I dealing with? It's a duck, it's an animal, it's a car, it's
the
thingamajigger that does
delivery
the thing.
Service.
Sure, yeah. And types are you sort of build this scaffolding of types that like expresses your knowledge of the structure. So it's this really great way of like communicating semantics. And I really like that. That's why I like C++. C++, you can like nerd out about that stuff. It's like OP. Like you can like very easily hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Doing too much with types in C++.
Right. I feel like that's like I think that's like if there's a root language of like fucking pure like I could be wrong, but like I feel like everybody does that. What's the other one? I think there's C# or something.
Well, C# is a little different. C# isn't that related to C++.
And
actually.
C is just the core.
C is the oldest. So C is like from the 70s.
Huh.
And then C++ builds off of C. C# looks kind of like them, but is like.
So they're
inspired by, but is it actually a part of that lineage?
There's like language, so you would say like the coding language is like, say we have English, and there's like fucking like dialects, not necessarily dialects.
Yeah, I mean C++ started as a dialect of C and turned into its own language. I would say it's more like there's a family tree.
Okay.
Of like different ideas in programming languages went into different areas. So like TypeScript is like a sibling of JavaScript. But it adds types on in a way that makes it a lot nicer for building larger, more complex programs. And it kind of scratches that itch for me without it being too powerful, but it still like can express the stuff that I want to. It's I like the puzzles that I can do in TypeScript.
You were mentioning, so you're at maybe like after Google, you're doing a couple projects over there. You were mentioning that you did a lot of like ethical coding.
That's always been kind of where I wanted to go. If I was going to do coding and I wasn't going to be like making musical instruments, I wanted to be like doing something that was actually positive for the world and not just like, making ad auction systems or, making a like dopamine addiction service, like, fuck that. So after the C++ stuff, I did a couple years of work on this really fucking cool project called Outline, which is part of this group at Google called Jigsaw, which is like a human rights group within Google. So they work at a bunch of stuff. People at Jigsaw work on censorship, which is what I was working on.
Yeah.
They also work on, like, there's a team that does, like, improving the level of conversation online and, like, kind of using ML to detect, like, purposefully trolly, inflammatory content, things like that. There's another group that's working on, like, revenge porn and, like, how can you remove revenge porn from Google, basically. There's a group that's working on detecting deepfakes. And then there's also some researchers who aren't doing anything specific, but there's this one researcher, Beth, who's brilliant, who, like, basically mapped out the entire, like, for lack of better words, like, the marketing funnel for online conspiracies and, like, white supremacist conspiracies online. Really? So she, like, went and spoke with, like, dozens of people who had gotten into and then left, or maybe hadn't left even, like, internet conspiracy groups. Because she wanted to know how do people get in, and then how can we get people out. So it was, like, partly is a de-risking thing. How they're getting, like,
radicalized by these, like, weird-ass fucking media groups.
Right, so it's really interesting seeing that research going on at Google while there's all these accusations going on from the right that, like, Google's trying to brainwash and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, that is a question that people at Google have to and do talk about a lot, is, like, how do you actually be the arbiter of what's true? Because that Google's kind of serves that role in our culture.
Yes.
So how do you responsibly serve as the arbiter of truth?
Do you think that Google is still going by the what's it called, the don't be evil? Yeah.
I think, well, first of all, it's hard with any, I mean, like, Google has over 100,000 full-time employees and over 100,000 contractors. So you can't make any hard and fast.
So weighted.
Yeah. But I will say that out of the big tech companies, Google attracts the most idealistic people.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Google is the company where people feel the a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people are there because it's a career move.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people at Google, even if they are only there for a career move, who are still, like, interested in the role that Google plays in society and how can we do this thing responsibly. Yeah. And Google provides a lot of internal, like, pushback mechanisms. So it's really easy for regular people to, like, push back against decisions made by administratives people and be like, this is stupid, like, we shouldn't be doing this, like, I don't, like, no. And that transparency started to go away as I was there. That was one of my first reasons I wanted to start moving away, was because there were these, like, couple big controversies that happened while I was there about, like, Google making Google search for China that abides by Chinese censorship, and then there was another one about there was this, like, software for military drones and nobody was told about it, which is weird because Google, everything's transparent. You can go read everyone else's source code if you want to. And that was personal for me because at the time, the stuff I was working on is, like, every product that Google has eventually got down to the code I was working on. So I was like, my code's on that drone. And I, you know, as a math person, you kind of have to decide whether or not you're okay with working for the military because they're a huge, they hire lots of mathematicians. And I didn't want to work for the military. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to spend my time helping hurt people. Yeah.
It was more of a help thing. Yeah, no.
So, but Google has this Jigsaw thing, which is really great.
Yeah. You were commenting earlier about, like, how some of they're not necessarily all tech. I wouldn't classify Clubhouse as all tech. It's what Andreessen Horowitz or some shit. At least that's what I know of. I know the venture fucking backing of that shit. I was like, holy shit! Because when Clubhouse came out, but you were saying, like, how Clubhouse was one of the facets that like the Chinese mainland could actually communicate without government interference, just because there wasn't a text being, like, sent over.
Wait, why do you say that again?
I don't know, you were talking about Clubhouse and...
Oh, Clubhouse, yeah. Clubhouse was great, yeah, because there was, like, a little period of, like, a few weeks or a couple months where people in China could talk on Clubhouse, and the Chinese government hadn't caught up with it yet. so people could actually like speak their mind anonymously, which you can never do in China ever. So it was really beautiful. I'm friends with a guy who was one of the organizers of the Tiananmen Square protests, and I was talking with him a lot during that time because he's actively involved still in like trying to organize like counter movements against the CCCP or CCP. Yeah, and it was like beautiful. Like he was going and doing talks and talking to people about what it was like before like all of the censorship and surveillance was in place, and like, you know, it doesn't have to be this way. Like China doesn't have to work like this. Like, you know, we're just having conversations about life where people felt like they could talk and not have to look over their shoulders, you know, for camera.
Yeah.
You know, or a metaphorical camera on the internet, you know.
And then a lot of people are just putting the camera on themselves.
Yeah.
They got everybody putting the camera on themselves and dancing, mind you.
Making dances for TikTok.
Dances, get your likes, get your dopamine fix, guys.
Yep.
The entire medical cabinet is yours.
You're gonna be the one. You're gonna be the one who gets 100 million followers on TikTok and living in a mansion based off your social media career. That's gonna be you.
Which is
someday.
pretty crazy because earlier today we had like the social media influencer, man. We had SLV Sounds and it's weird. It's always a double-edged sword, man. Because it's like,
he was interesting because he had like two modes. He was like really chill and kind of quiet, and then like he would turn on like, you know, influencer mode, and he was just like all over the place, and he had his like hits that he was doing and the things that his crowd liked that he would do, and he just like he turned on that face, and that was like him doing his thing, and then he would turn it off and like go back to like having a regular fucking conversation. At least that's what I heard when I was listening into you guys. Well,
it's like a performer, man. It's I don't know. I was saying I forgot whose podcast I was saying it on, but I was talking about, I saw Jordan Peele, who is fucking the director of Nope. I saw him do a commentary, and he was talking about the actual movie of Nope. And it was weird because I was watching Nope. I was thinking about watching it. It was the first time I ever saw it. But he, the meaning of it, instead of like, I was there to like get his comments and shit, and I actually got to say dope. I got to say dope movie. That's Jordan Peele. But, the movie's about like the selling of a spectacle, and we've been kind of doing that for a long ass time, and that's it. It's strange because they're taking like the same kind of thing where it's these psychological like routes where it's like, you know, like, oh, like bright colors, da 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 da, all these like things. They're compacted, compartmentalizing it, and then they're taking the aspects of theater. Like, the whole movie is about a selling of a spectacle, but it's about, like, cowboys and fucking UFOs and, like, you know what I mean? Like, old Hollywood commentary. But it's a very beautifully done movie, and it's crazy because he did it with the Universal, which is, like, the fucking, you know, like the Google or, like, the Facebook of, like, the movie industry. So you're moving in a very complex beast in order to create your art. And he said it was the most personal piece that he's done. Like, Get Out was more of, like, a script. Yeah. And Us was about, like, here's my commentary on this. And this one was about, like, a little bit of how he felt internally. And he felt like he was exploited a little bit in these, in, like, Viacom and, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, he was just being pushed to make these things. But, yeah, man, I don't know.
Thought about that a lot, man. I think about that whenever I'm like, you know, I think about my life, like what if I had stayed in the creative industry? What if I had, you know, stayed with my music? And there's an aspect to that, like you are selling a spectacle. Yeah. And you're selling like a distraction. And it's great a lot of times, especially if you can like give a good story, you know, it's important. It's important. We're not saying we don't need it. But you know, I can imagine being in that industry and feeling a little bit like a dancing monkey. Yeah.
That's which is crazy, bro. That's it's one of my projects.
Yeah.
Not it's called Dance Monkey Dance.
Yeah.
And it's like an animated series where, well, honestly, it's less of it's more of like being tasked with like shit that you have to like accomplish. It's like I end up writing a lot of like philosophy. This is still a treatment, and there's a couple things, but it's basically GTA with monkeys. I think if fucking Bored Ape Yacht Club can take off, man, I think everybody would love to watch Grand Theft Auto with monkeys.
With monkeys,
it's just monkey skin, but like nice animation. You know what I mean? But like The Sopranos a little bit.
It's like Planet of the Apes GTA.
Yes, yes. And you know what? This is on this podcast. If this comes out, I'm dating this shit. I don't know how the legal system works, but this GTA with monkeys. My idea. What's it called? But no, I want to call it Dance Monkey Dance because, you know, sometimes we're all the monkeys with the cymbals, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, yeah. But speaking of creative projects, so you're here now.
Yeah, what am I working on?
You're in Prototype Patterson.
Yeah. So, in terms of creative projects, I've got... Well, so Prototype, I feel like I'm just now starting to get my feet underneath me in terms of how I can contribute here.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a while to come to terms with, like, am I even going to, like, stay here for a while? Or am I going to, like, stay here for the 6 months I said I would stay here and then bail? So I had to, like, figure out, do I want this or not, you know? And, like, what's my level of commitment to this place? So just, you know, I kind of tried to hide that because I felt like, you know, with people, there's, like, a lot of dedication to the place here. And so I didn't want to be coming in, like... Oh no. So I was just like, you know I have to do this internal conversation with myself.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to... Because I kind of fell in. Like, I kind of fell in here because I needed a place to stay. And then I happened to meet Jon Fathom. I just happened to meet Jon Fathom. And he was like, yeah, we got a room. And I was like, I need a room.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I very much kind of fell into it. I wasn't necessarily, like... seeking this necessarily, although I was looking for like communities of some sort.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking to like, I wanted to live somewhere that was green, and I ended up in Patterson. But I feel a little more grounded here at this point, and so now I'm like, okay, how can I contribute? What are my skills here? I definitely would like to be doing more of like the audio work, but I know Alex really loves doing it, so you know I get on there when I can and I show him some stuff that I know, and you know, but I really miss that. I miss doing that, so I really love like getting behind the board and doing all that stuff. I've been trying to help out, you know, get this floor like ready to go. I think all of us on this floor are trying to like, you know, get it like to a point where it's a little more polished and a little more put together, you know. So that's been nice, you know, just good, you know, home to put some energy into. And then I've got like, well, I'm looking for jobs right now, so that's a big part of my energy. It's just like looking for work. But creatively, I've got some either my just own personal knocking the rust off of my drums. I've been drumming more since I came here than I have in years and years and years and years. So that's been really great. Just like working on being up there and like not being stuck in my head about it, and just like opening up and being more free with it and getting everything under my hands again. So that's been really wonderful. And then I also have like a whole separate like Burning Man life. So there's a regional Burning Man event coming up in February in Miami called Love Burn, and I run a camp there. And then we're doing a lot of like organization for that right now. We're joining up with a couple other people, so we have this like group of 125 people who we need to make sure have a place to stay and have food and all of that. So we've been doing all that organization, and there's already an LED project I did for that last year, and I'm doing another one this year where it's like interfacing with my friend's like flow toy that he does that like talks to a computer, and then like sending out like, you know, pixel information to these light tubes that I'm building. So I've been really like working on LED stuff the last couple of years and learning how that works, and that's been fun. And so between those two, like the LED portion of it and then the actual like organizing of the camp and making sure people are excited and, you know, participating and all of that, that's a lot of my creative work right now.
Word. All right, word, bro. Well, Jon Cohen, ladies and gentlemen, it's another episode of Afternoon FM. Have a great night, guys.